Welcome to the Mental Performance Playbook brought to you by The Athlete's Health. My name is Gabe. I am the founder of TAH, The Athlete's Health, or Top Athlete Habits, creator of this Mental Performance Playbook podcast where we are breaking down elite mental strategies and delivering them in actionable exercises for our athletes to apply immediately. Check out mental training in the links below. Check out some free resources as well. But let's get right into it. This week, I just got back from golfing, hopped right in the studio. We are talking about adapting and stress and setting our athletes up for their best season yet. That's right. July is about to wrap up. We're moving into August where all of those fall sports, club ball, whatever it is starting. And we are going to implement and use adaptation and stress as two key variables, two key pieces to set us up for success in our athletes. So without further ado, let's get right into this. And please use these concepts, these exercises that we are covering here. And if you like this, you find this interesting, please give it a follow, give it that like, give that 5-star rating, whatever platform we are on, and share this with someone. So stop right now. Go do that if you have listened in the past. Help us keep growing as we keep delivering these exercises. But let's start. So stress, we're going to talk about this. And we're also going to talk about adaptation with it. So not adopting, not taking something in, having it be our own, right? So I get those confused sometimes. So that's why we are going and I'm defining this. It is adaptation, adapt. But we are going to adapt to the stress because we need that stress. I'm going to get into that in a second. But first off, let's talk about what that stress actually is. I have a whole cycle here, quick walkthrough of what is actually happening in this stress process. So let's break this down first so we know what our athletes, our performers are going through and how we can set them up for top tier success for us. First and foremost, sensory stimulus. This means something is coming in. So this sensory stimulus, something is happening. It's upon us. What then happens is we perceive it, we see it, we soak it in, think about like a sponge and bringing it in. When that happens, cognitively, we appraise it. So we take that in and filtering it. We filter it out, see what is actually happening. Oh my gosh, maybe it's really amazing, maybe it's really terrible. But this is part of the stress process because then the emotions get involved. And what happens is they get aroused. So something happens then with them. From these emotions, we have different chemicals, different traits that trigger this mind-body connection. This is a huge detail, but from that, there is an actual physiological bodily response that is happening and a reaction to that response in the body, our actual body, the muscles have this response. And from there, the mind and body try to cope with it. They have some type of response, some type of thing that happens because of this original sensory stimulus, this original noise, action, sight, you name it, that triggers and cascades this big event that goes in a snap, a blink of an eye that tells us, wow, this is stressed. Now, this can be good or bad. It's not like it is going to be bad. And actually, how we're going to look at this today is we're only mostly going to talk about how we can make it better for ourselves. This stress, this adaptation is restoring the body to homeostasis, back to its regular temp, its regular peace. So what's going to happen this upcoming fall is our athletes are going to be pushing themselves. Change is upon us. And when that happens, they need to adjust. We adjust to that change. The body needs to get back to homeostasis, our regular temperature. But this change that is happening is increasing, right? Practices are getting harder, games are getting more competitive. This change is increasing. So this adaptation also increases. This adapting is the key to the stress. And that is why this episode is so important for us, because yes, we can go through all the physical actions and everything else, but if we don't understand, become aware, know how to train the mental to then physical side of the game, of the performance, of the athletic event, we are not going to actually be able to adapt to it. Yes, the body will to a certain extent, but it's not going to get the full adaptation until we train it and we know what is happening, like we're doing in this episode. So I said I wasn't going to be talking about too much bad stress here, but I do want us to know that too much stress over too long of a period of time can become too disruptive. Basically, that change and adaptation just keeps going up and there's no time for it to come back and resettle. Think about the Iron Cowboy, the guy who did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. He never gave his body a rest, and from that never giving a rest, he had injury upon injury. He still completed it, but he never gave a rest. That's why throughout an NFL season, or any season really, but let's use NFL as there's many injuries in that, and that's going to be here before we know it. Throughout the season, we start to see the wear and tear more and more on the body because they're not giving the time to come back, adapt to the season. That's why they put in so much work preseason to try and get the body to that peak position. Now, it is no different for the mind in our mental training, or even just the mind for that physical training. Because if we go through that stress response, yes, that stimuli might be coming into the muscles, but then it ultimately is the brain, the mental game that goes back to the body and delivers the response. So this is adaptation. This is us adapting to the stress, to change, to restore, not only to the previous homeostasis, but the new, the increased level of performance. But with that, I want us to know some other levels, some other categories of these psychological, these mindful, the mental stressors, because there's physical ones. I'll list those out very briefly. These are not all of the mental stressors, but these are a good amount that I want us to understand as we're going into the season, so we can label these. We can boom, put this on. It's at the grocery store. That is an apple. That is an orange. We know what we're getting into. That's what we're doing with these other pieces of stressors. So we can label them. We know it. And then we know how to handle it, because we can't train it if we don't know what we are training. So frustration can happen. Frustration is mostly going to come from blocking of ourselves. That does not mean we are blocking ourselves, but what we are wanting to achieve, a goal of what we are wanting, is being blocked from having to be done. We cannot make that happen. It cannot be achieved, at least in that moment. This frustration then has an emotional response of anger, aggression, agitation, being upset. Now, when we can understand, okay, this is some frustration happening, what can we do to handle it? And that is when we get into more of our actual mental exercises, where we create the processes for us to fall back on, for us to implement. So we're not just doing our blocking drill, but we are actually going through our mental training and implementing it right then and there, because that's what we do at TIH with our trackable mental training. But frustration is there, because that is going to be one of those stressors that we have to adapt to change to. Ideally, that's a challenge that we now, boom, overcome, set ourselves up at a better position than we were in. Now, there's different types of smaller subjects that we can get frustrated about, but we're not going to go into that, because for sports, it does not necessarily matter as much. I'm talking like discriminating, overcrowding in big cities, like bureaucracy. We're not going to talk about that in this one. So there's frustration. There's overloading. Now, this overloading, this goes back to our adaptation. This is stimulation. Boom, think getting shocked, stimulating. Boom. that exceeds our capacity, what we can do to handle it. Levels of these. Now, there's different types. And I'm not just talking about doing sprints on the field. There's different types that can mentally overload us that we can watch out for. That if we know these, once again, then we can start training it. So this is a part of the training, but this is just setting it up for success. So we know these pieces. There's time pressures. Are you going to do it all the night before? Are you going to expand it out? Will you expand or contract into that allotted time anyways? Some research articles would say, yes, you will. But which one actually puts more stress on you? Which one do you adapt faster into? Which ones overload us? There can be having too many responsibilities or too little, but we'll get to that in a second. Too many responsibilities that we now have to do that we were not used to before. Once again, overloading, adapting, a change that we need to conquer to come back into homeostasis, to come back to understand for our athletes so they know this is what's happening, this is how we can handle it. Maybe there's a lack of support. Hopefully, listening to this, you're with an athlete and you are giving them that support, or you are an athlete yourself. And then you know you got us at TAH or this Mental Performance Playbook for your support too. So we are in your corner. Just know that. But not having that support, not having that piece to go to talk about, I'm not talking to like just talk. I'm talking about game planning this out, figuring out what the next step, the next move is. All these pieces help us out. And then maybe the biggest one, which will be one of the main ones we end on here today, is excessive, crazy amount of expectations from ourselves and others. But what I'm more so thinking about in this one, if you're at least something like me and some of the people I know, from ourselves. We are our worst critic. And certain times we overload ourselves too much now. Is that also when we can prove to ourselves that we can do some crazy things? I truly believe so. And through my past 2 years just of this entrepreneurial journey, but then also just in anything else I've done, even those 2 years and times before that, I know that we can surprise ourselves and what can be done. But this excessive expectation is another type of overload that we have on ourselves. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but what I am saying is we need to know this so then we can know that that change is coming and we need to adapt to that change, because all of these are types of stressors. If it moves our usual state, that homeostasis is going to be a stressor, and then we need to adapt to it. Last piece I will say on this, and then we'll wrap it up, is I'm talking about moving it. And yes, this can also be moved down, but still increase our stress response. What I mean by this is there is a deprivational stress. Now, this deprivational stress comes from that word depriving. Think about if you were deprived from your phone. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do without TikTok or Instagram, or else without the Mental Performance Playbook and our episodes here? But if you're deprived from that, we are understimulated. That stimulation, that shock, now it's not there at all. It's not there at all. What are we going to do, right? It also could just be a repetitive task that is boring, that's not challenging. Oh my gosh, that can be even worse than nothing at all. Certain jobs are linked to having stressful headaches, backaches, not just because of the position they're in, but because of what is happening to the person and what they are going through. Loneliness is also a piece on this. If your athlete's on a team and they got no one, this deprivational stress will be there, or it can be there. So once again, all these are types of stressors for us to know. It's like if you're a mouse, if you know the mousetrap is there, well, you're going to stay alive and you're probably going to thrive too. But if you don't know that mousetrap is there, sooner or later, you're stepping on it and you're not prepared, and lights out. Now, lights will not just be out for us if we don't know the stress is here and know how to adapt to it, but that figure of speech still applies, where this all ties back to adapting. But to adapt, we have to know what is happening. And these are just a few ways mentally that we will be stressed as our athletes move into this upcoming fall season. especially as they wrap up whatever was happening in this July. And if we want to set this up as the best season, the best expectations, to have the best results that we've had yet, right? That end statistical numbers outcome goal, we have to know what is going to challenge us so we can adapt, so we can come to that level and then play the hearts out. Please, once again, if you liked this episode and you liked learning more about the adapting, not adopting, but adapting to the change, to the stress, how to handle this, and how to set ourselves up for success, share this with someone. Share it with someone who needs it, who should check this out, who should check out some of our mental training at TAH, resources down below. Otherwise, we will catch you next week on the Mental Performance Playbook. Once again, I know we're slow but surely setting this background up, the studio. Let us know what we should put in here. Thank you. Catch you next week. My name is Gabe. Peace.